Good afternoon, everybody. I'm David Horn, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I know people are still joining. Um, Yesterday was our first day of classes. It's always really energizing to have the students back on the oval. I think you can see some of them going by in the background. But this year is special, even at this challenging moment in the history of higher education in the United States. The college, I want to tell you all, is well on its way to becoming one of the top public colleges of arts and sciences in the country. And we can move even more boldly and more quickly with your help and partnership. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about where we've been as a college, where we're headed, and we'll have some time at the end for your questions. Some of those questions were submitted in advance when folks registered, but there's also an opportunity to ask new questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. As many of you know, this is our 15th anniversary as a unified college. It's the crystal anniversary for those of you who are thinking about gifts. This webinar is the first in a series of events and conversations that we're going to use to mark the anniversary, and I hope you'll be able to join us for other events over the course of the year. When I came to the university in 1990, and when many of you were students, we were divided into 5 autonomous colleges, each with its own dean, budget, and curriculum: the College of the Arts, the College of Humanities, Social and Behavioral Sciences, the Biological Sciences, and the Physical and Mathematical Sciences. That structure had been in existence since about 1968, and it had functioned reasonably well. But it did mean that it was difficult to collaborate across college boundaries, and especially to build strong interdisciplinary programs. It also meant that the colleges spoke both internally and externally with multiple voices rather than a unified message. And of course, it meant we spent a lot of money on administrative overhead. So in 2003, we began an experiment, took the tentative step of forming a Federation of Arts and Sciences. But because the Federation Dean didn't really have any budget, there were very few opportunities to shape a coherent strategy for the college as a whole. And then finally, in 2010, we became a unified college under a single executive dean, quickly becoming one of the largest and most comprehensive colleges of arts and sciences in the country. That's still true today. We have 38 departments and schools, offer almost 90 undergraduate majors and more than 100 minors and certificates. We teach 31 world languages, including a rapidly growing program in American Sign Language, and we have about 55 graduate programs. And because we're now one college, interdisciplinary initiatives have flourished. We have, for example, team-taught courses that cross the old college boundaries. A course on AIDS taught by a historian and a microbiologist. Another one on climate change that's offered jointly by 3 departments: the School of Earth Sciences, Evolutionary Biology, and History. We've recently launched a new interdisciplinary major in leadership, one of the first of its kind in the country. And we have plans for an online degree, and maybe I can say more about this in the Q&A, in the liberal arts that will allow folks who've left the university years ago to complete their degrees. And we're home to 28 interdisciplinary research centers with more on the way, each of them taking on challenging local and global problems that don't fall neatly into a single department or discipline. I think it's also important to say that interdisciplinarity has not come at the expense of disciplinary strengths. This year, more than a dozen of our departments and programs, 6 in the social sciences alone, are ranked in the top 10 of American public universities. We continue to invest in core departments across the college, including in the arts and humanities, at a time when many of our peer institutions, and especially peer institutions in the Big Ten, are cutting or consolidating those programs. We've hired more than 250 tenure-track faculty in the last 4 years, and we have 48 new searches underway this coming fall. We're building on existing strengths, but we're also seeking opportunities to distinguish ourselves from our peers with new initiatives, for example, in quantum science and technology. We've completed work on our arts district. I hope if you haven't been to campus recently, you will come and visit, see our state-of-the-art buildings for the School of Music and the Department of Theater, Film, and Media Arts. We also completely renovated the chemistry labs in Celeste Labs to align them with different forms of teaching. And this year, we're going to be opening a new newsroom and studios for Lantern Media. They're already up and running. We're going to have a formal ribbon cutting later in the semester. And we hope by January to open the new home for the Department of Economics in a completely renovated Bricker Hall. Bricker, you probably will remember, what used to be the home of the university administration, the president and the provost and the board of trustees. It's now going to be a wonderful space for economics faculty and graduate students. A number of our individual faculty have also been recognized for their extraordinary achievements over the last several years. 2 years ago, I'm sure you all remember, Pierre Agostini won the Nobel Prize in Physics. Last year, two of our arts faculty were featured in the Whitney Biennial in New York, one of the most prestigious exhibitions of contemporary art in the country. 6 of our colleagues were recently elected to the National Academy of Sciences, including Rich Petty in 2025. And this year, 3 of the 5 faculty who were selected as distinguished university professors at Ohio State, the highest honor that can be bestowed on OSU faculty, came from the College of Arts and Sciences. Finally, we're finding new ways to live into, to imagine our land grant mission. I mean, I think one of the things that excites me about being the Dean of a College of Arts and Sciences at Ohio State is the ways in which we can creatively inhabit that responsibility. We've created an Office of Engagement led by Associate Dean Maurice Stevens that partners with communities, schools, and nonprofits across the state of Ohio and even beyond the state. Our School of Music has launched Opus 88, taking advantage of the fact that there are 88 keys on a keyboard and 88 counties in the state of Ohio. Its ambition is to be present in all of Ohio's counties. And our Department of Women's, Gender, and Sexuality Studies, which this year will celebrate its 50th anniversary as a department, is now offering an undergraduate degree taught in person at the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Really an extraordinary example of how to live into the land grant mission. So we have a lot to celebrate about our recent past, about where we are today, and I think every reason to be excited about our future. But of course, as I mentioned, these are not exactly normal times in higher education. As you're all aware, many public and private institutions are under attack, financially and in terms of their mission, even in terms of the content of the courses they teach. Federal funding for research remains uncertain, and we're watching that very closely. Some of the news coming out of Washington is more encouraging than it had been in previous months, but we're going to be looking carefully to see what kinds of support are available for research and creative work across the college in the months and years ahead. And in many ways, both state and federal governments are involving themselves in unprecedented ways in the everyday workings of the university, in the ways we hire and evaluate and promote faculty, in the language we use to talk about our values, in the offices that we build to serve our students, faculty, and staff. But we're continuing to find ways to move forward. I mean, that's been our goal all along. Many of you are familiar with the provisions of SB 1, which took effect earlier this year. Many of its provisions took effect at the end of June. We spent much of the summer in our college and across the university working to bring the college into compliance with the provisions of SB 1, and also to develop resources that will support our faculty and students in classrooms, labs, and studios this semester and into the future. And, again, we'll be watching closely to make sure everybody has what they need to navigate this moment with clarity and civility. And I'm hopeful that we won't have a whole lot of problems to overcome. Our overriding goal is really to enable all of our faculty, staff, and students to do what they came to the university to do, whatever that was. But also to take risks, because risks are what allow both faculty and students to grow as scholars and as people. So we're committed to making our classrooms places where you can safely have challenging conversations about difficult topics. And that's always been an important part of the work in the liberal arts. We're fortunate to have a president and provost who see significant opportunities in this moment um, as we navigate the road ahead. President Carter, for example, has said he wants Ohio State to emerge as a national leader, a national model of what public education can mean and do at this moment in its history. He's going to be announcing further details of his strategic plan in a State of the University address on September 17th. I'm sure many of you will want to tune into that. But some parts of the strategic plan are already becoming clear. Our new provost, Ravi Bellamkonda, who came to us from Emory University, is asking us deans to imagine paths to being a top public university and to make the investments in faculty and students that will get us there. I'm not sure you'll hear either the president or the provost talk explicitly about rankings as a goal. So it might be more accurate to say that the provost wants us to be like the best public institutions, to do the things well that they do well, and to let rankings take care of themselves. We don't. We all are skeptical of university rankings, but they're useful when they push us to do things that we otherwise want to do, and when they reward us for our success in meeting those goals. The important thing here is that the provost, the university as a whole, but particularly the provost office, is partnering with colleges to accelerate our progress towards some of our goals. One example that was announced earlier this year was the matching fund to support new endowed chairs, which help us recruit and retain outstanding senior faculty across the college. Our generous alums have helped us create 2 new endowed chairs just in the month of July. And we very much hope that the match program, which offers, for every million given by a donor, it matches it with 500,000, may be extended when the first pool of funding is exhausted. So we're hopeful that we can continue to make some progress and be more like our peers in having a wide array of those kinds of positions that can help us get the best faculty to come to campus. The university has also set a goal of hiring 100 new faculty whose research interests are centered on AI. You may have read about this as well. We expect to hire 17 of these new colleagues in the arts and sciences next year in fields as diverse as music and philosophy, political science, and chemistry. And we're going to be opening 2 new centers. I think the announcement's going to come out in September, focused on AI and interdisciplinary research that will help us attract those faculty, but also take full advantage of their presence together on campus to do novel things that might not be possible on their own. We're also going to be partnering with the provost to ensure the academic and personal success of our students. One goal he has focused on is to match the first-year retention and graduation rates of the best public universities in the U.S. And to close the gaps between the retention and graduation rates of first-gen students and other students. Those gaps have been persistent for many years, and we'd really like, by focusing attention on the students who may struggle the most coming to the university, to get them retained and to get them to graduate in a timely fashion will help elevate our overall numbers. Our numbers are pretty good, I have to tell you. Our first year retention rate is now at 94.2%. When I came to Ohio State in 1990, it was in the low 60s. Some of you maybe remember being told to look to the left and the right and sort of recognize that one of those people might not be there by the time you graduated. That's certainly no longer the case. But places like UCLA and Berkeley have retention rates of 97%. So it's not a lot of students, it's not a lot of percentage points, but we're going to need to understand in some detail what those students need to stay at the university. And if we keep them for a second year, they're much more likely to graduate on time. We're also working with the provost to teach introductory courses in ways that ignite passions in students and build competencies for them rather than weed them out or lead them to feel like they don't belong at the university. That work's been underway for several years, led by our dean, Susan Elisik, in the natural and mathematical sciences. So we've made some tremendous progress already in the ways that we teach introductory STEM courses, and we see it reflected in the academic performance of students, and we hope that will also translate into higher rates of retention within those majors and in the university as a whole. We're also expanding opportunities for what we call high impact practices, for internships, for study abroad, for undergraduate research that we know provide open doors for students as they begin to think about leaving the university. Study abroad obviously also provides just an extraordinary cultural experience for our students. And then the last area where we're collaborating is to implement the university's I guess, signature curricular initiative this year, which is to make every student fluent in AI in a way that's relevant to their academic major before they graduate. So this incoming class is expected to have that kind of fluency over the next 4 years. This is, as you can imagine, we've got 18,000 undergraduate students, a significant challenge for a college of our size. But I will say that the liberal arts have always been about cultivating the kinds of literacies and other capacities that prepare students for a complex world, for a rapidly changing economy. In different ways, our departments are embracing this challenge, thinking about what AI fluency can mean for a history major, a biology major, a sociology major, and then how we develop those competencies in over the course of several courses in a student's career. So that's something to keep an eye on as we begin to implement that. In sum, the College of Arts and Sciences has very ambitious goals for the months and year ahead. We're very excited about where we are now, but where we think we can be in a few years. We're about 3 years through a very ambitious strategic plan that I think continues to align well with what the president and provost will announce later this year for the university strategic plan. And in doing all that work, we'd love to have you as partners to continue the conversation that for some of you, we're beginning today, and to find ways to keep you engaged with our work as we move forward. How can you help, you may ask? There are a wide variety of ways, and we recognize that each of you has different capacities and opportunities to be engaged with the college at this moment in your lives and careers. One is by being advocates for the college, helping us to tell the story of our research and creative successes. I think Ohio State historically has been overly modest. We don't like to brag about how good we are, but I think this is a moment in which it makes sense to be pretty proud of what we are, who we are, where we are. And we would appreciate your help in amplifying that story. And also telling stories about the ongoing promise of a liberal arts education. Each of you is a powerful example of that promise in your own way. We like to say that the paths that our students take are not always linear, but they always lead in interesting directions to rewarding and fulfilling lives. And finding ways for us to work with you to share the examples of your own trajectories can be a powerful part of recruiting new students and reminding others beyond the university about why the liberal arts matter. Another way is by opening doors for our students and faculty, creating internships with your own companies, volunteering as alumni mentors, serving as advisors for faculty who may be trying to launch a new company. We're going to be announcing again in September a new office that's dedicated to supporting commercialization efforts across the college. We have both faculty and students who are interested in creating startups, and a number of you have expertise in how to do that and can be powerful resources for them as they embark on, what remains a kind of what continues to be a kind of novel experiment for many of our faculty. And finally, you can help us by obviously by investing in us in our emerging programs, in endowed positions for faculty and scholarships and fellowships that support graduate students, undergraduates and graduate students, and in the infrastructure that allows all of us to do the path-breaking work that will define us in the years ahead. So I look forward to future conversations with many of you. I'm happy now to take some questions. Again, some of them were submitted in advance, but we welcome any that have come to you since we've been talking. And to help moderate the conversations, I'm pleased to introduce my colleague Fabienne Munch, who's the chair of the Department of Design and also chair of a faculty committee that's been working with us since the summer to plan events like this to commemorate our 15th anniversary. So Fabienne, welcome, and she will be asking me some of your questions.
Thank you, Dean Horn, and hello, everyone. Here is a first pre-submitted question. How are AI, VR, and other emerging technologies impacting the way we teach students and their interest in the various fields of the liberal arts and sciences?
Thank you for that question. So this AI fluency initiative that we're undertaking is an opportunity for us to take stock of the range of ways in which our colleagues are already using AI in the classroom. It varies a lot by discipline. It varies even within disciplines by instructor. We want to understand well what's working and what's not, and think about what we might want to add, what lessons we might want to learn from each other. AI and machine learning are already very significant components of a lot of our courses in fields like math and statistics and astronomy. We also have courses in linguistics, which has for a long time had a reputation for its strength in computational linguistics. And linguistics is one of the disciplines that's really fueling that AI innovation. We think of it primarily as a kind of computer science field, but the arts and sciences are deeply invested in developing new forms of AI and thinking about how to use them. We also have folks in our philosophy department, some of whom work on ethics in AI, but others who are interested in philosophy of mind and who are focused on the power and limits of the kinds of intelligence that machines can be said to have. One of the interesting shifts in the classroom has been from viewing generative AI, ChatGPT, which is the form of AI that that first comes to mind when people are thinking about what happens in classrooms, from viewing that as a problem associated with plagiarism and academic misconduct, to thinking about it as a tool that has to be used carefully, but can be, when done well, can be an aid to creative work in departments like English. So we have folks in creative writing who are thinking about how to use AI in the classroom. We recently hired Tina Talon in our School of Music, who teaches courses on AI and musical composition. So there's some really innovative forms of teaching that have moved away from that paradigm of AI as a problem. And then, of course, we have folks who are interested in evaluating AI critically, thinking about its social, ethical, political, environmental consequences and how we mitigate those, manage those, think about those in the future. So that's a wide range of things happening in AI. I guess I would say VR is, I'm going to say this cautiously, Fabienne, because you probably can answer this better than me, but virtual reality is there are certainly pockets of expertise across our college, and places where it's being used in the classroom. One is ACAD, our Advanced Computing Center for Art and Design, which uses VR not only as a tool for teaching, but for research and engagement with communities beyond campus. There are lots of very interesting simulations that are being used to train folks like social workers in the Columbus community. And our Department of Design recently launched a new major in experiential media design, which really capitalizes on this technology. So I think we're going to see more innovations in the classroom around VR as well as AI, and it's a very exciting time for thinking about how and with what cautions and constraints we use new forms of technology to teach.
Thank you.
Did I do it justice, Fabienne?
That was perfect.
Okay.
I'm expecting that you raise a lot of interest and questions from the audience about these emerging technologies. The next question is broader, but refers to some points you raised at the beginning of the webinar. In an era when many question the value of a degree, how do we explain the value of a liberal arts education as a good investment for the future?
Great. That's a question I think about a lot, and it's really in some ways one of my favorite questions. Even though what we're really talking about is a kind of double layer of skepticism. There are many people who are questioning the value of a college education, period, given its high cost. And then layered on top of that is a set of worries about whether a liberal arts degree in particular is worth the investment. Neither one of those worries is really supported by data. And not only data about earning power, but also about career satisfaction and happiness. There's lots of evidence that liberal arts degrees do lead somewhere and lead to places that on balance people are very happy to be. But these anxieties are persistent. They've been growing over the last several years, especially as the costs of higher education have continued to rise, and partly because liberal arts have been in some quarters aggressively attacked. But so I think one of the challenges in this moment is to talk differently about how and why the liberal arts matter, why the arts and sciences degrees are valuable. One dimension of that for me is to work consistently to try to broaden the conversation about the university's role in workforce development. Sometimes that has a kind of narrow technical meaning, workforce development. We think about training people for particular industries. And so we need to remind people on our campus and off our campus, whether it's legislators or high school students and their parents who are thinking about what kinds of degrees they want to pursue, that liberal arts education is valuable not just for individuals, but also for the economy and for society. The names of many of our majors don't sound like jobs. Pharmacy has an advantage that if you get a pharmacy degree, you kind of know what kind of work you're going to do. But our degrees lead to almost any kind of career that you can imagine, including some that we can't yet imagine because of the rapid changes to the economy. Recent studies are also suggesting that liberal arts majors are more resilient than folks with narrow technical degrees, many of whom, as you probably have been reading, have been laid off, who don't have the flexibility or breadth of skills to pursue other careers. There was a piece in the New York Times recently that pointed out that the unemployment rate is higher among computer scientists than it is among majors in art history. So, which is, I don't know what you do with that, but it's a reminder that most art history majors are not out working at museums as art historians, but they're doing all kinds of careers, and they have the wide range of competencies that enable them to do a variety of jobs well, to think critically, to write effectively, to situate things in a historical context, to solve complex problems, all those kinds of skills that employers in a wide range of disciplines want. So it's partly just a Marcom's problem. You know, how do we get our story out? But the other thing we're doing is working closely with our students while they're here to help them better understand what they're good at. I think a language major doesn't always appreciate that they have something called intercultural competencies. But if we can get them to understand what it is they're good at and how they can use that in the world beyond the university, then they're better able to tell that story as they leave. So working on a number of fronts to really reinforce a message that's supported by all the data that these degrees do matter, that they really are powerful engines for not just for individual success, but for social transformation.
One question that was asked is, I guess, from someone who's been following the leadership changes in the institution. And the question is, what goals from the past president's initiative, like, for example, financial planning, debt-free degrees, focus on the arts, are being carried forward with the new provost and president?
Yeah, leadership transitions are always interesting for deans and others because the provost and the president are my bosses and part of my job is to align what we're trying to do as a college with what they identify as the most urgent um, uh, challenges facing the university or its community. And every leader wants to make a mark in a different way. So we've had we've had a bit of uh, uh, turmoil over the last few years. Luckily, we've had some stability in our college, but yes, we've had a variety of very ambitious initiatives begun at the university, and I think it's reasonable to ask what's going to become of them. I will say on on the student debt side, we'll have to wait to see exactly what the president says on September 17th. But I have every expectation that he is going to talk a lot about access and affordability. So I think there will be a lot of continuity there. The program may not look exactly the same, but the goals will be very similar to make Ohio State accessible to as many people as possible. On a national scale, we are very affordable, very accessible. The president frequently talks about the the percentage of students, I think it's 57 or something percent of students who graduate with no debt, and that the average debt of the students who do have debt is below $25,000. So we are doing pretty well, but it's my sense that he wants to do even better to further reduce student debt. So I think we'll hear some more about that in September. We had a lot of donors in our college who gave money to support scholarships during the Scarlet and Gray Advantage campaign. We are certainly committed to making sure those gifts are used to support the original goals. So I can say certainly at the college level, we are going to continue to work towards and to the goals and to embody the values that were present in that initiative. On the arts side, I will, we had an unusual opportunity when Melissa Gilliam was provost because she has a particular personal familial relation to the arts that I think made her particularly passionate about advancing the arts at Ohio State. But I've heard both the president and the provost affirm their own individual commitments to the arts. That takes a variety of forms, from introducing students to uh, opportunities to interact with the arts across campus and downtown. I want to make sure that support also translates into a commitment to the kinds of research and creative work that goes on in our arts departments. And that the research and creative and curricular mission of our arts departments is at the center of every conversation about supporting the arts. But it's also incumbent on us to invest ourselves. I think it's important. I think every president and provost wants to see who has skin in the game for certain kinds of initiatives. We are certainly, as I think Fabienne, we are committed to having very strong arts programs in the College of Arts and Sciences, and we hope that will in turn generate support from the central administration. We have new buildings that are spectacular. the design, the building, the Hayes needs some more work. We know Hopkins needs some more work, but the Arts District is a pretty compelling example of how the arts matter in our college and at the university, right at the gateway to campus. Again, if you haven't seen it yet, you should. We're hiring new faculty across the arts at a time when very few of our peers are. We've been launching new programs. I mentioned the experiential media design, but we also have, for example, new courses in hip hop and in music therapy in our School of Music. Even our leadership major has courses in the visual and performing arts. So I whatever level of commitment we get from the president and provost, and I have every reason to think they are fully supportive of arts as an integral part of the human experience and the educational experience. Um, you can depend on the college continuing to invest and continuing to expand. We're doubling down on things that, I will also say as when the dust settles from all the program cutting that's going on around the state of Ohio and across the country, we think we're going to be a magnet for students who want to have the breadth that a arts and sciences education can provide. And one of the things that's going to draw people here is our strength in the arts, is our renewed commitment to world languages. We are not going to just narrowly focus on those things that have high enrollments or that lead to particularly well-paid careers.
Yeah, we're a true university.
Yes.
The next question is interesting because you are talking, Dean Horn, about social transformation. And I think this is an opportunity for the College of Arts and Sciences to demonstrate that the college is at the forefront of paying attention to these signs of transformation. So I'm reading the question. As approximately 40% of the nation's college population are non-traditional students, and by the way, we haven't vetted this number. This is
Okay.
from the question, right?
Yeah.
What plans, if any, does the college have to expand class offerings to accommodate students with full-time employment and or family obligations?
Great. Yes. Thank you. It's I mean, I think this is another way for us to think about what it means to be a College of Arts and Sciences and a land-grant institution. I think we have a different duty to think expansively about what it means to serve uh, the state of Ohio, what it means to serve populations beyond the traditional student body. And there are a number of dimensions to that. Several of which we're working on very actively, and some of which I think are going to be part of university-wide initiatives. One thing I mentioned in passing that we're working on an online degree that would allow students who left the university, students leave the university for a variety of reasons, right? And so at the same time that we're focused on ensuring that as many of our current students come back year after year as possible. We also want to think about and do something for students who, for a wide variety of reasons, were not able to complete their degrees, many of whom are now in the workforce, and many of whom would find it valuable to complete a college degree to get a promotion or maybe to move into a different kind of job. So we hope we have a proposal that's going to work its way through the approval process this coming semester. It is a fully online bachelor's degree. We're not sure of the name yet. It may be something like liberal studies or arts and sciences. It's not going to be a degree in chemistry or history or design. It's going to recognize the fact that it will be in almost every case easier for students to complete a broad interdisciplinary bachelor's degree than something that's focused in a particular area. We have a wide variety of courses that are available for those students, many of which were developed during COVID. There's always a silver lining to particular kinds of crises, and in this case, many of our colleagues learned to teach effectively online and to develop new kinds of courses that can be delivered fully online and ideally asynchronously, so people can do them at the end of the workday. They can work on their courses in the weekend. So we are very much designing a degree program that meets needs as we understand them across the state of Ohio. And obviously, we've been in conversation with many of those folks to understand precisely what it is they need. So I hope in a year from now we'll be launching that degree, and it has courses that are specifically designed to kind of orient people back to college, and then there's going to be a capstone experience that will help them tie together the work they've done before, and the work they've done online. So that's one example. We also are talking with the university about how to better serve the active duty military and their families. Many universities offer some online courses that will enable them to, for example, to complete general education requirements before they leave the military and come to a campus, or in some cases to complete entire degrees. So we're looking at ways we can serve that population. The other example I'll give is it's a little different, but many of you, I hope, are familiar with Program 60, which allows any Ohio resident over the age of 60 to take courses without charge at the university. That program was previously administered by the university and was at risk of becoming significantly restricted down to a small number of courses that students could take. We are very committed to that program in the arts and sciences. About 85% of the courses students take through Program 60 are in our college. So we took responsibility for that program. We're now going to do all the advising. We're going to keep the breadth of courses available. There are sometimes restrictions when a class is full. We have to accommodate our paying undergraduates first, but there's going to be a wide range of courses that will continue to be available to students over 60 who want to return to college for whatever kinds of reasons. So we're really proud that's going to continue.
The next question is related, but I suppose the person who asked wants to have a little more feedback from you on the impact of online classes. So the question goes, how has online classes changed course content and conduct?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think we probably need to talk about this in a couple of phases. One was, there was the COVID phase when we were, for obvious reasons, obliged to transform, I believe it was 1,700 courses from in-person courses to online courses, which was a tremendous lift for faculty across the college. And that was a kind of emergency version but one where we were determined to impose some quality control on the process. We wanted online teaching to be done as well as possible in these challenging circumstances. We had experts who reviewed all the syllabi. We had expectations for interaction between the instructor and students. There were certain kind of thresholds we wanted to make sure were always being met in all of our online courses. And in the COVID era, we also built out our own office of distance education, which is led by Elizabeth Marsh, who's really very skilled and has a very exciting vision for online education. So I would say since that time, we are teaching much less online than we did back then, but we are also teaching it better. We're really focused on where online teaching can do things that in-person teaching can't, where it can reach audiences that might otherwise be inaccessible. We are where it's possible to do things at scale. I mean, a large lecture class of several hundred students is not an optimal way to learn, and there's much less fall off in the experience when you put that course online than if you put a small seminar where people are interacting with each other in real time online. So we've tried to make some distinctions about what kinds of courses, what kinds of audiences are best suited to this to this medium. But the online degree for folks who've left the university is a good example of identifying an audience, thinking about the kinds of courses they need, the mode of delivery that is best suited to their needs, and building that out. So I think that's kind of what defines all of our projects going forward. Who's the audience? What's the need? What particular kinds of work need to happen in this class? And and in some cases it requires a lot of skill to teach online well, especially to teach asynchronously online well. But we have the expertise in the college. We have the support to help faculty learn how to do this better. We have examples of best practices. And so, I'm excited there too about a future that's not more online, but better online than we've ever done.
Now we're going to switch to chat questions. So we're like almost live. So one question is, you mentioned in the very beginning of your presentation something about having established a program on leadership.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on what the program looks like, what its objectives are? So,
Absolutely. Yes. So this is a new major that we launched last fall, and in leadership. There are very few examples across the country of liberal arts majors in leadership. Leadership majors are more frequently found in colleges of business or public policy, sometimes of education. But this is a way of introducing folks to a broad range of disciplinary conversations across the arts and sciences, with a shared focus on leadership. The curriculum has courses from I believe 28 of our 38 departments. I mentioned earlier there are courses from the arts. There are certainly a lot of courses from the humanities and the social sciences. There's STEM courses in there as well. There's a common core you can find if you go to our college website and look. If you search for ASC leadership major, I think you'll be able to find it readily. There's a core set of courses that's common to everybody, but then there are tracks, areas of focus that will enable people to think in particular about leadership in particular domains. There's one that's linked to leadership in the military. There are others that would be better suited to somebody who's interested in working for a nonprofit, and what does leadership look like in a nonprofit world. There are history courses, there are ethics courses, there are courses in women's gender and sexuality studies about women in leadership. So it's a broadly interdisciplinary major. Really, there's only one other like it that we know of in the country at a small liberal arts college. We're the only ones proposing to do it at the kind of scale that we can do at Ohio State. So I think it's going to be very exciting for a lot of students. A lot of students are going to do it as a second major, we suspect. They might major in something outside the college, engineering and leadership, or they might major in something like psychology and leadership or French and leadership. It's an interesting feature of our college that we have a lot of double majors who combine very different kinds of interests into one college experience. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
great. Next one, it will certainly remind you of some student, Dean Horn. But I'm reading. Hello from a 2002 alumna, PhD in German, and took a comparative literature class with Professor Horn.
Oh, nice.
Currently COO of an AI VR learning design startup, and would love to contribute to the AI projects mentioned. What's the first step to get the conversation started? Thank you, and go Bucks.
Well, so I will say as a former student, they're certainly welcome to reach out to me directly. So and I will try to connect them with somebody. I mean that's a great example of ways in which two things strike me. A great example. That's right. That's not the kind of career you would have predicted for somebody getting a PhD in German and taking a comparative studies class with me. But that's even at the graduate level, arts and sciences students go on to do incredible range of things. And the second is that's a great example of a kind of giving back, somebody who has an expertise that's relevant to an initiative that we're trying to build out, and we'd love to hear from them and from others. My address is horn.5 at OSU edu, so feel free to reach out.
Great. Yeah, that's absolutely the illustration of liberal art in education, right?
Yeah.
Next question. Thank you for this webinar. I am a current OSU mom from 27 with a current high school junior who is also considering OSU. Yay. She is considering chemistry and or material sciences. She has done and loves chemistry research. You mentioned new research centers. Will be research opportunities for undergraduate students being affected by federal cuts to science research? Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's a great question. This we have been focused a lot on trying to understand the impact of cuts to federal grants on graduate student support, because a lot of graduate students are at the university only because they are funded by federal research grants that make their employment possible. We have lots of opportunities for undergraduate research at the university, and although those are sometimes funded by grants, we also have other sources of support for undergraduate research at the college level, at the university level. So we provide research grants to a large number of students. We often have more research money than we can give away to undergraduates. So I expect those opportunities are going to be in some ways more resilient than some of the opportunities that might exist for graduate students. Uh, the I will just, to put in a pitch for our chemistry department, which is also very highly ranked, and one of our top 10 departments. It has a particular strength in materials research, a number of faculty working in that area. There are interdisciplinary centers focused on material science with which chemistry and some of our other departments are affiliated. So I think it could be a great place for somebody with those sorts of interests to come. I mean, one of the things I love best about our college, although it's also on some days a challenge for everybody to manage, is our scale, where there are research opportunities in almost any field you can imagine. The challenge of that is to make it feel small and navigable for undergraduates. So I think we do a good job with the undergraduate research office to connect students who have those sorts of interests with faculty who can use undergraduates in their lab. There are a lot of things I mentioned, high impact practices. Those are all in varying ways about making a big place provide the kinds of opportunities you might normally expect to get only at a small liberal arts college. So that's a back and forth that we're always sort of thinking about. But yeah, on the good days, it works really well.
Yes. We have room for one last question, Dean Horn,
Okay.
from the chat. Many colleges are scaling back on faculty due to declining enrollment. Is this happening in here? And how is the college meeting this challenge?
Uh, Thank you. So there are a couple of different ways to answer that. I mean, one of the provisions of SB1 is that majors that have a small number of graduates every year either need to be eliminated or consolidated. And we are, whenever possible, pursuing the path of consolidation. We want to keep as many opportunities open to students, even if there are only a few students who study Hebrew or who major in Hebrew every year. We want that to be a part of the range of languages that we offer, not just a few courses in, but a major in. And that's true for a number of many of the small majors tend to be in world languages. Other universities have made a different decision, just to cut them. and sometimes to fire the faculty who teach in them. We are certainly thinking about where there is enrollment demand as we hire new faculty and make investments in programs. But we also appreciate that there are some programs that may have a small number of majors, but that nevertheless contribute in really significant ways to the curriculum as a whole. I'll give you an example of classics. It doesn't have a ton of majors in ancient Greek or Latin or in classical civilizations, but they teach thousands of students every year in courses that are very popular, that introduce our students to ways of thinking and ways of being in the world that are both part of our tradition, but also feel very exotic and very distant from modern experience. An incredibly valuable contribution to our curriculum. So we want to make sure that we're not just thinking about numbers of majors, but also the total number of students who are served by any department. So we are, President Carter often talks about how he's committed to keeping 36 varsity sports. I'm committed to keeping 31 varsity languages at Ohio State, and some of them pay for the others, just like in sports. So we're a big enough college that we can afford to do some things that are important to do, even though from a certain point of view, folks might not think they're generating a lot of revenue.
Dean Horn, thank you so much for answering to this question. You didn't have preparation for the chat question, so
Thank you.
very, very much for this very enlightening exchange about your vision and the College of Arts and Sciences.
I want to thank you, Fabienne, for leading our 15th anniversary committee and the other faculty who are on the committee, including Rich Petty, who just was elected to the National Academy of Sciences.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of you for being here and invite you to come back for other events. We're going to be doing things to mark and celebrate our anniversary over the course of the year. And we would love to find ways for you all to be engaged. There's a wide range of ways you can contribute time and energy and money to support what we're doing and to try to help us move faster and more boldly in the directions that we want to go. So really appreciate taking the time to be with us today and to listen to us. And let's have our fingers crossed for a great game on Saturday. Take care. Thank you, everybody.